very warm welcome here on Canal to English and the program, The Forum. Today, our guest is Miss Miranda OBEN. She is an IT engineer and event presenter. With her, we are going to talk about a number of things because, as you could imagine, she is not based in Cameroon, but based in Nuremberg in Germany. What does she do there in Germany? Those and many other questions are what we are going to have as interview with her in a couple of minutes. Good morning. As I introduced at the beginning of this program, I said today my guest is Miss Miranda OBEN. She is an IT engineer and event presenter. But the good thing is, it depends on where you stand or the way you look at things, is that she's not based in Cameroon, but in Germany and in a city that is full of history called Nuremberg. She's our guest today, and with her we are going to talk about a number of things about the role that she's playing within the Cameroonian community in Germany and beyond. Mrs. OBEN, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
The pleasure is all mine.
Okay, so how are you doing?
I'm great. I mean, I'm home. How should I be feeling?
There is really no place like home.
Oh, tell me about it.
Good. Now, as I said at the introduction of this program, that you are an IT engineer.
Correct.
And we know we have a wider audience, and most of them are not so well vested in those terms. Like, for example, when we say ITs, like initials,
right.
They don't know what IT is all about.
Right.
And now, you are an engineer.
Correct.
Now, for the layman or woman who is watching you right now and across the country and beyond, when we say IT, what does that stand for?
Good question. First of all, thank you so much for having me on this great program.
It's a pleasure.
I've been following it and I love your shows, so I'm really honored to be here today. When I say IT, or when we say IT, is information technology. And then as an engineer, you have to always be able to pass information on to others. And what is used most often nowadays to pass on information to people is the computer. Before we went to the smartphones, of course, right? So what I work with is software. Software means what does the user work on to pass on now this information to people, right? So that is information technology. As an engineer now, you prepare it so that you and I can take a device and be able to communicate with other people.
Oh, that's good. And now, when have you been in this profession? How long have you been in the profession?
Well, right after university, I just dived into my profession. You know, I just got a job and I was working in an international company and got a chance of seeing the world. And if I look at the time that has passed since then, it's about 8.5 years. So an IT engineer for 8.5 years today.
And which can we know the companies that you've worked for?
The great thing, it's been one company. I'm always
really?
faithful, yes.
Yeah.
I was lucky to land a great job, and I've been working on in that company till today.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm very satisfied worker. It's Infor, formerly known as Lawson, and they do ERP software, enterprise resource planning software.
Okay.
So since it's so, and I'm satisfied, I don't need to change.
Okay. And where did you study? Did you study only in Germany or out of Germany or from Cameroon?
Only in Germany.
Only in Germany.
So after I did primary school at the Bastos Primary School in Yaoundé, and then I did secondary school in Lycée Bilingue, and I did my A-levels, let's say, in Cast-Bambili, and then moved out of the country.
Yeah.
And I studied then to become an IT engineer only in Germany, yes.
Oh, great. But now, talking about your interest in IT.
Yes.
Is it something that when you went to Germany, that's when you developed the love for IT technology, or is something before leaving Cameroon you had already had a kind of calling?
I think that's a very, very good question. One thing that marked me as a child already in Cameroon is I spent a lot of my time in the library. I always wanted information. I wanted to reach the world out there. And back then, of course, you didn't have computers as many as we have today or mobile phones. So you had just your library and the classic, you know, get a book and read about the world out there. So to be able to get information about the world or pass on information, credible information, I had to equip myself with information as well. So I would spend time in the library and prepare that. So it's but normal that when I decide to study, I would study something that also conveys conveys information in some form to other people. But choosing what to study, of course, I discussed with my mom and dad. And my sister, who was out there already, she was like, you know, she's already becoming a medical doctor, so why don't I become an engineer? And that was actually pretty much my direction, you know, and that led me also to the, you know, the event thing. So I would say it's a calling. As a child already, I wanted to reach the world out there. I mean, somebody told me about a city which was built on water, and I was thinking, oh, I have to make it someday to Italy, you know, and then go to Venice. When you read about Shakespeare, all that happened in a library. So my computer today, my notebook today, is that library, only I can hold it in front of me. But back then, it was a shelf of books, so gathering information. So it's a calling.
It's a calling. Now, let's talk about the choice of the city you in Germany.
Yeah.
You know, Nuremberg.
Nuremberg, yes.
Is a historic city.
Very much.
Full of history. Now, did you just go there by chance, or you chose to go and stay in Nuremberg?
Yeah, I studied in Duisburg. Duisburg is more like the western part of Germany, and I started working there. And the good thing about my job is I can do it from home or go to the office. So relocating was no problem. The reason why I moved to Nuremberg is because my heartbeat, my husband got a job there. And so since my company was flexible enough to get me working from Nuremberg, I followed my husband now down
That's
to
extraordinary.
Nuremberg.
That's
Yes,
good.
and I love the city.
And you have kids?
I have a baby boy, a little sweet baby boy, Akira, yeah.
Right.
So if you're watching Akira, hello to dad and hello to my son as well, yeah.
Okay, that's very good. Now, besides your profession, which is IT engineering, you have, I don't know if I may, is it a calling or a kind of passion that you have, that is event presentation? And now, tell us a little bit about the event presentation you are so neck deep involved in.
That one, I would say, is, it started as a hobby, and then I thought it was a passion. Today, people say it's a profession, because a lot more people know me as an event presenter worldwide than as an IT engineer. And when I say it's a gift, it's because people chose me to follow that path. People made me see how well I present from their feedback, the events, because it just started at my university where you would have Francophones and you have Anglophones. Then we'll have a Cameroonian meeting, a few students, about 16, 18. But since I spoke English and French, being from the Northwest, growing up in Yaoundé, I would translate between the two parties. And then when we had an event, I would present the two cultures and so on. When questions were difficult, I would translate to the Anglophones. And then when we had to present Cameroon to the German authorities, then I had learned the German already in the language. So I had all three languages, and they were just like, Miranda, why don't you do it? Exactly. And what started at the university is what has become now so big and international and got me sitting here today.
Exactly. And now tell us, when we talk about event presentation or presenting an event, what does it entail?
First of all, what kind of event? That's the first question.
Good.
Right. It could be a forum. It could be a conference or a gala. Now that wraps up that event. So the last time I was in Douala here was 2010. There was a Journée Germano-Camerounaise. So it's the German delegations, investors who were coming to Cameroon to invest, and I accompanied them. After that, it's just been happening that whenever there is a forum or a conference that has to do with my country, Cameroon, and Germany, I get picked now to host those forums and those conferences, which of course always end with a gala. And then we get all pretty and then go, you know, eat, drink, and exchange, B2B. What came up as weddings now is just because I did, I don't know if you know, of course you know Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting, right? The football star. Of course, yeah.
You know, I'm not a fan of football, but I know that name.
Yes. So he was having his wedding in Hamburg, and I was invited to host the wedding. So it just became like, oh, if she can do weddings, why don't you do my wedding? So I actually got into Douala at the Poké to present at the wedding.
So you do some wedding presentations?
Yes.
Besides presentations of weddings, what other types of events do you, or are you solicited or invited to present?
When it has to do with kids, you know, kids like that kind of teenage, when they are actually, they'll start thinking about their future. I present at those events because what people seem to say is children would listen, you know, somehow when you talk to them in a way. And what I do is I talk to them playfully, but get them thinking about their future. So an event in Germany like Our Kids and Their Future, which is the Diaspora Kids, I would present at such an event, which is of course involving not only Cameroon but other nations as well, because this started as Cameroon, but it's become so international. I get the Tanzanians reaching out, the Ghanaians, the Nigerians, mostly the English-speaking part, migrant children. So I would present at such events. I don't want to diversify my events too much. What mainly makes me choose an event, of course, after discussing with my team, is there a continuity in the event? And how much is that event going to impact or inspire other people, you know, to kind of follow their dreams, do what they believe they can do, follow their passions, you know. So there's so many events in Germany, but I'll just pick three. The National Day. The
National Day of
20th
which
May.
country? Of
Cameroon.
Yes.
Cameroon, my home.
Yes.
So 20th May at the embassy in Berlin. Next year is going to be on a Friday. How do I know? Because preparations are ongoing. We're receiving other embassies, other Cameroonians coming there. We have not less than 500 people in front of me on that day to talk about my country and represent.
And it's a kind of major event for you.
Very big,
Okay.
very big.
Besides the events at the Cameroon National Day,
Yes.
which is May 20th, if I'm not wrong,
yes.
What other major events have you presented?
Around the world.
Around
Let's
the
take
world.
Brussels.
Awesome,
I left Brussels before coming in to do the events in Yaoundé, Douala, and Boya here in Cameroon. In Brussels, what do we do? It's kind of like an African Oscar gala night. What we do, or what the organizers aim at doing, is kind of rewarding those people out in the world doing magnificent things for their countries or their diasporas. You would have the DRC represented, many other African countries, South Africa, and these people who came into this event, which was about 3,000 people in a hall in Brussels, the Birmingham Palace. That one now is an event where I say, you go back, sit together, reflect, award them and encourage them to do more, encourage other people. That was in Brussels. Now in the UK as well, when there is a forum, now you need someone who speaks English clearly, and I get the chance to be lucky enough and honored enough to be flown out there to do a forum. So you have now Brussels and London, but I don't.
Don't you have any plans to cross over the Atlantic?
Well, crossing over, you mean the U.S.?
The U.S.
I've been there.
Yes, to
I've
present
been there.
events.
It's usually just if I have presented in the U.S. as well, but it's hard for me to talk about myself. That's why I usually just say, maybe for the viewers as well, just my website and then.
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
It began just like a kind of hobby. It has now become like a second or predominant profession.
Yeah.
Does it mean, if my feeling is that you have now created a kind of industry or a kind of firm? I don't know the rightful terminological description of what it has been called.
I know. It is actually, people have created something for me. People thought I was helping with my university to translate between Anglophones and Francophones. That's how it started. And then go on and present it. And then today, it's an industry because I have the diaspora. I don't want to say in my palms, but I have the diaspora. You could just tell me you need some contacts in Brussels. I would know about 5 names to just call right now, or in Paris, or in the US, or in the UK. I know bloggers. I know a lot of people out there, just thanks to this help I was giving to my community by translating. It has grown so big. It's not an industry, it's not a firm. I think it's a platform on which I have so many people, and I'm thinking through that platform to do something really revolutionary. Yeah, I'm working on something amazing, but I can't talk about it right now.
You're working on something that you can't talk about. It's like you don't want to set the cat out of the bag.
Yes,
so you want to surprise Cameroonians and the African or the world.
Yes.
Now let me ask you another question, because you seem to have a mastery of the Cameroonian diaspora in Germany and beyond.
Yes.
The question that most of us who are in Cameroon who do ask is, what role is that diaspora playing in terms of development, socio-political of this country? Are they playing any role?
It's minimal right now. They've just started. Not as in one person is here. Take yesterday, for example, in Bastos in Yaoundé, near the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung. You have a really lovely conference of returnees from Germany. Now, that same kind of conference, I would follow up with the UK branch and the US branch and the people from France and so on. So they have started. There's something going on, but we don't have a representative figure. How many have returned? What are they doing? You know, what are their challenges? Because we left as kids. I would say kids because high school, you're a kid. And then you return in your profession as an adult. You're married. You have a boy of 4. What do you do to reintegrate into the community? They are contributing, but it's not strong yet. On the other hand, a lot of more people want to return, but there are so many questions, as in, will I be able to reintegrate into my country? Now, I want to, but who will answer these questions for me? The health sector is one thing I hear a lot about. What about health? What kind of insurance can I take up? Am I fine when I return? Because out there, you get comfortable, you know, well, you know, you get medical checkup and here and there. A second thing is education. The kids, when I return, where does my kid go to school? Is it the same in the Sacred Heart or, you know, Our Lady of Lourdes?
No.
Are the schools the same like back then? Because you're thinking it's 10 years today, a lot has changed. So they are playing a role. They're building industry. I could actually talk about an example without mentioning the name.
It doesn't matter. You can mention the name.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, Caramello. Somebody gave me to try it yesterday. It's a normal caramel sweet, which will be groundnut and the coating of sugar a little bit.
Yes.
And then someone takes it and doesn't have these ladies wrapping it on papers, but you actually produce it with the packaging, you know, expiry date. You
Yes,
know, you make it
I've
really
seen it.
good.
I have seen it. I think it's around the corner here.
It's a German returnee.
A German returnee doing it. But there is a kind of accusation, because when we have a returnee like you in front of us, we cannot prevent ourselves from asking you all those questions. There is a well-known Cameroonian here called Owonangini.
Okay.
On his Facebook page, he posted, I think, a week or two ago that the Cameroonian diaspora spent time whining and dining without getting interested in contributing politically or economically in this country.
Yeah.
Is it true or false?
I wouldn't normally go with a true or false. I would say from what angle he's coming and what statistics he's got in that, because that's really an accusation. Is it only whining and dining? I would say no with what happened yesterday at the embassy with people returning. And this Caramello example I've given you, he's coming here, he's creating jobs, he's getting our products well, you know, on the shelves and looking good and all that. But to say you accuse the diaspora of just whining and dining, I would say no. Another problem is usually information gap. There's a gap between the diaspora and here at home. How can you fill that up? And I'm generally someone who doesn't complain. I try to do something about the situation. Now, if I think the diaspora really wants to return, but on the other hand, they don't have enough information on the ground, I try to get those who have returned to talk to those, you know, like at the conference in May in Nuremberg, I got some to work together.
That was what I was trying to ask you, because I was about to go, you had preceded me, but the thing is, I wanted, for a person like you who organizes events, have you not thought for once that it's important to organize a kind of conference or a forum, I don't know the type of words to use, to try to explain to those who are in Germany or beyond the opportunities that exist in Cameroon for them?
Yes, that's a very good question, because this is one of the blocks. Because what I believe is, it's good. I mean, everybody can lean back and complain. I mean, I could do that as well, but I'm here today. I'm here today.
And what is your impression?
I'm very impressed, like within getting here, the professionalism with which I've been received here, it's been amazing. But someone back then will think, well, if you came to Cameroon, there's a lot of this and that. But have you been there? Have you lived it yourself? Don't relay information from someone else. You have to be able to live it yourself or do something about it. You don't fold your arms and complain, oh, this happened and that happened. It's not going to work. You have to be able to roll up your sleeves and do something yourself. If you notice with the conference, we always have our ambassador at such conferences. It's the Challenge Cameroon, and it's every year in Germany. And at this business forum, we had some of these returnees who come now to do some projects in Germany. And that is what you try to set up. You can always wait for the government or the people to do something. If everybody could roll up their sleeves and start, like today, we will be somewhere a lot further by December next year.
By December next year.
So I think Owonangini should join me, and let's get them doing something more with these ideas.
Yeah, exactly. But the other question I would like to ask, because since you do organize forums or you participate in presenting events like forums, you talked about bloggers, and I got
Yes.
interested. Have you all not thought of trying to organize a kind of forum with IT, new technology or new media, such as bloggers, Twitters, and things? Have you ever tried to do such a thing?
I have not done it personally, but I know there are small ones here and there. Not trying to do it as in relaying back to the home country, but they're doing it out there on their own, like little islands. Some try to do the forums, of course, but it's not strong yet. There is something what I think I'm emotional about this, because I feel like I believe everyone else is saying it, but we have to start. We have to start somewhere. When I think of, if I may mention her name,
you have to.
Yvaine, my size, she is in the US.
Yeah.
She does a lot as a blogger. She's very active. Then I moved to the UK and I have Anu Goretti. Now, if you take one here, one in the UK, you get France, you get Cameroon, you put them together. And then you have Canal de English. Having people watch that, having people hear what they're doing, that's a bigger platform now. We would set up, that's a word that is coming up always this week, a revolution.
A revolution, yes.
A revolution. Everywhere I go and I start discussing this, I have about 100 names of people who would come together, and then when we shine that light on them, we would reach a lot more people.
Exactly. You said when you are you are a returnee, or you are in Cameroon.
Well, I'm just here on holiday.
On
actually.
holidays.
I want to be a returnee
Okay,
someday.
okay,
sure,
some days,
I'm working on it.
Okay, you're working on it, right?
Yes, we're talking about it in the house a lot.
But
Yes.
before coming here, you presented an event in Brussels.
Yes.
And what was the event all about?
The Oscar Gala night.
Oscar
to
Gala.
award Africans from all over the world who are doing remarkable things in their communities and societies.
And you also said you presented something in Boya.
Yes.
And what was it you were presenting?
In Boya, that's a very good question. Now, what did I present? I went to high school students, BHS Boya, that's at the foot of the mountain, and these are opposite students. They're in the chemistry lab, preparing against the A-levels. Right after that, they might leave the country like me or stay here, but they're about to start their future. So it was more a presentation of the world out there, the Cameroon the way I know it best, and an inspirational talk of what can you do after that, right? Giving them concrete examples, because they have questions like, how come we see you with Samuel Eto'o, Lady Pons, X Malaya, all these big names, Manu Dibango. These kids are interested in these stars. But before you become a star, I told them it's good to be a star. But if I come to interview you, I want you to be able to express yourself correctly. When you read your contracts, I want you to be able to read them and get that, argue at a good level. And education is very important. So this one in Boya, at BHS Boya, was reaching opposite students, promising them with a backing now from an organization in the UK. The Cameroon Career Women's Award would award the girls out of this group, because that's another thing. There's the target also, there's the focus on women not being that strongly represented out there. So they would award the women if the girls get A grades in the A levels.
A grades in A level. To run off this program, you are an IT specialist, an engineer. Now, I don't want to have any comparison with Germany, but since you are back on vacation, have you noticed any improvements? If yes,
Oh yeah.
What have you noticed, and what are recommendations that you could give if you had some recommendations to make?
Well, the first thing in the domain of technology, right? I deal with websites a lot, my website as well. When we came here maybe 2 or 3 years ago, the internet was so slow, or the connections always broke down, or it's because of the weather or so. If you need to reach people, you have to reach them in real time. Information has to be passed. So I think a lot should be done in that area of having a stable information transfer, be it with flights, power failure and all that. If we could stabilize something like that by using a UPS, unbreakable power supply, get a really big battery to make sure that these are very important information pools, and they should always have a backup, because you accept it when lights go off. But I cannot do my home office if I were here in Cameroon and I have to send information out to a client, and I'll be saying, okay, we're working on something, and all of a sudden, let's just say because of power failure, I might run 30 minutes if the battery of my notebook was still on, but after that, I'm out of the conversation, I'm out of the web, you know, and they don't know why I'm out of the meeting, but they understand because I'm in a third world country. So we have to work on that.
Okay.
There is improvement, but not yet enough.
There is improvement, but not yet enough.
Yes.
Look, Mrs. Miranda OBEN,
Yes.
it was a great pleasure having you here today.
Pleasure's mine.
And I think you are an inspiration to the young girls you met in Boya and beyond.
So much. Thank you.
And we will be happy to have you here more often.
I'll be glad to be back anytime. With the way you took care of me, I'm really happy. Your team is awesome.
Thank you very much. Well, it is on that note that we are rounding off our program today, and we hope that you did enjoy having our guest today, who was Mrs. Miranda OBEN, an IT engineer and event presenter. Please stay tuned on programs here on Canal 2 English.